Hi folks, Charlie Shelton here, Zippity Doodad. We are back at Knott's Berry Farm for the full event of Knott's Scary Farm. If you haven't seen the Nightmares revealed, they announced some of the new houses. I also tried some of the new food, that'll be linked up there. But we are here for the full event. I've got my lantern. Let's take a stroll through the park and then we'll go back to the office and talk about it. So we're back from Knott's Scary Farm. It was a long night. I walked a long way, but it was a lot of fun. I got to see everything I needed to see, and now we're going to talk about it all. So as with my other videos that I've done on haunts this year, if you haven't seen them, I've done Horror Nights at Universal Studios and Fright Fest at Six Flags, and I can link those right up here as well. I'm going to be talking about spoilers, but I will also do a no spoiler version. So if you jump down to this time code right here, you can get a spoiler-free version of this review without giving anything away. So if you're still here, I assume it's because you want spoilers. So we're going to jump into it. Let's talk about each of the mazes. Now, Knott's is a little bit different from Universal Studios, and those are the two in LA that are kind of compared head to head, because they're both the big theme park haunts. They spend a lot of money. Knott's is, of course, the oldest one. It is celebrating its 51st year this year. So they're the oldest theme park haunt, and they're the granddaddy of it all. I think they're very widely respected for that. But Universal is the other contender. So it really is kind of a battle between the two of them. If you're going to do a haunt event, it's between the two of those. I'm going to do a separate video on comparing and contrasting all of them if you only have a short time in LA to see these and you have to pick one, but I would recommend seeing them all because it's been a really good year. But unlike Universal, which develops all new houses each year, Knott's has a lot of holdover houses from year to year. So they have a couple of new ones this year and the rest of them are returning. The new ones this year are exceptionally good. Like they usually do a really good job, but this year's both houses are really well done. The two new houses are Eight Fingers 9 and Widows. We're going to talk about each of those in depth, but those are the two new ones that are here this year, and they really, I think, have pulled out all the stops, especially after last year with the 50th anniversary, and we thought, wow, you know, the Chilling Chambers was new last year. They're really pushing it and swinging for the fences, and this year they went even further. So I think this might just be the new way they're doing things, where like the production values and everything are so good. So let's talk about them specifically. Let's start with Eight Fingers 9. This is one of the two new ones. It's about the boogeyman. Let's take a look inside the maze.
A gift of new life from a green spirit good, but hunger and hatred had tainted his soul, and awakening evil I can't control. The stench of sweet things so tried to that, so slight from wood he reaches, its sleep you will die. Your blood feels as come. But my hunger's not yet sated. Another runs and bite that sinks into the bone. Evil
As night descends, Eight Fingers 9 emerges from the shadows in search of fresh meat. Step lively and beware of the dark, or you may be the main course of his next meal. So this is set in a 17th century New England village, and it's very creepy and very witchy, kind of a Sleepy Hollow vibe. Really, really well done. Honestly, one of the worst names I think that they could have chosen, but I get it because throughout the whole thing they're saying this rhyme: one finger's two fingers, three fingers gone, because it's a boogeyman who eats you while you're stuck in sleep paralysis. And during the haunt announcement event, which I can link right up here, there's a behind the scenes video where they were talking about the development team behind the house. A lot of them have experienced sleep paralysis and seen these terrible boogeyman visions while they're laying there, which is a well-known, well-documented phenomenon. So a bunch of the haunt team sketched out what they'd seen during their sleep paralysis and hung those around the maze or scribbled them on the walls and stuff. So a lot of these really terrifying images that you're seeing are actually from sleep paralysis accounts of some of the developers of the maze, which I thought was a nice touch and makes it extra scary. But the idea is that this boogeyman comes in and it slowly eats you one finger at a time and moves up. And so we see him throughout the maze dining on people, and then we go further into the forest and see where he came from, and then we get trapped in there with him. It's really well done. The production values are just over the top. It's one of the more immersive mazes I think they've ever done, in that, especially as I was shooting, spinning around in the mazes, getting the characters and everything. It's like every direction is just fully decorated. It's so well done and so well put together. Great story that you can kind of piece together as you go from room to room. And the characters at Knott's are the best in the business. They really sell it for whatever their role is, being a terrified villager, being the boogeyman, whatever it is. They really go all the way, and they're just the best. So it comes together for one of the best houses they've ever done, I think, in my opinion, and one of the best houses overall at any haunt event. The other new house we have is Widows, and this one at the announcement event, which again I'll post up here, they showed a behind the scenes sneak peek with some of the developers and talked about how creepy and unsettling it is. It's a bunch of spiders that have invaded a nursing home. So I was really kind of terrified to go through this. I really thought it was going to be creepy and awful, and it was cool to look at, but it wasn't that scary. Let's take a look inside the maze. So it was, again, really high production values, really well designed, well done, but I think, hyping it up in my head from some of the descriptions they gave that it was going to be so much worse than it was. This one definitely got more jump scares out of me than any other maze this year at any other place. Not just at Knott's, but at any other haunt event I've been to. I got more jump scares because they use the dark very well. There's a lot of dark little hidey hole places where, you know, if you're looking around in the garage, you probably don't want to poke your hand back in that dark little hidey hole because there's likely a spider there. And they've just made that, you know, full human size because they have human sized spiders. They used the light and the dark really well, and it made it really creepy. And it got me several times with either, you know, props that you think are stationary that then jump out, or performers being back there, or even just the creepy feeling of walking through the haunt and you hear skittering in different places, but you don't see anything. That it was so well done. I think Boogeyman or Eight Fingers 9 is probably better, just for the size of the production, but this one was still very well done. I would have liked to have been in the nursing home a little bit more. I think that was a short part of it, and then we go into like the spider realm of being in caves and stuff, and that was creepy and cool, but I kind of wanted a little more of the interaction with the nursing home. So really, really well done, and I have nothing but positive things to say. Moving on, we're going to take a look at some of the returning mazes. Now, these are year after year, so they're well-worn territory, because if you're a fan of Not Scary Farm and you do go year after year, you've already been on a lot of these, but there are, you know, little adjustments here and there, to like quality of life adjustments that just sell the gag a little more, maybe make the lights not shine in your eyes quite as much. Little things in the design that are changed. So Waxworks, this is kind of like the Wax Museum, the old Vincent Price movie, House of Wax. It's making a wax museum, and the guy who runs it is a demented wax sculptor who uses people as the basis for his incredible statues and things that he does. This is some of the coolest props and set pieces of any maze they've ever done. Let's take a look.
Let us entertain you!
This exhibit highlights the brave patriots that founded the United States of America. In the entrance of the mall.
You okay? Everything good? All right, just checking. No, don't film this. This is the HR nightmare. Okay.
Some of these things are just ghoulish. The how they came up with some of these, like the mindset you have to be in for this ballerina who's being melted away and stuff, like that's just such a cool visual and so well done. And the bee girl that as you move through you can see the hollow in her chest, and granted it's a mannequin, but you know, just these visuals that are really unique and something that stays with you, not in like, ooh, a terrifying way, but like just beautiful artistry of the season. It's a really well done maze. This is their farewell year, so you know, even if you've been on it a bunch of times, go and experience it one more time. It's just a super cool, creepy maze. The other one that's leaving this year is Bloodline 1842, and this one I've never quite liked. Let's take a look inside.
This is how day raiders do it! Blood blesses brothers and
Armed with only your wits and courage, find the remaining Daybreakers and help destroy the king of the Valimpiri, for the last stand is here. This one's kind of vampire-y, like it is vampire-y. They're all vampires, but they're like warring vampires. The messaging was never really super clear on this one. Even when it came out, they tried doing several different things with this over the years of different gimmicks, and I think at one point they had like the remote fire guns that they were trying to do for a while. I've never quite liked this one, so this one being its farewell year, I feel like it may have overstayed its welcome already. It's a skippable one, and with full transparency, I didn't go this year because there was just too much else to see and do, so I didn't go on this one this year. But I've done it so many times before that it's only okay. The Grimoire. This is one that is, again, really well done and cool and immersive spaces that you walk through. So they use this book. It was kind of almost a spin-off of a show they had done in the same space the previous year. They open this book and they summon what they think is going to be like a monster, but you end up getting sucked into the pages of the book of all the times that this monster has been unleashed throughout history. Let's take a look.
This crazy book could unleash some kind of power.
Hello there. Be thankful it's not you. It's you.
Please don't do it. Why did you ruin my refrigerator?
So it's kind of almost got like a Stranger Things vibe to it because it starts with the kids in the campsite, but then you get sucked into a black and white 1950s world. You get sucked into World War One, and this one, although the sets aren't as lavish and built out, the attention to detail, especially in like the 1950s world of the black and white makeup and all the little props and things, it looks like it's stepped out of an old TV show. It's just really well designed, and the attention to detail here is on point. This is a cool maze. It's not my favorite maze, but that's only because there are so many others that are so great. This is still a really well done one. I enjoy it a lot, and I will say they don't have any kind of warnings outside or anything. Like, of course, there's strobes in all of these, but this one does have a particularly intense scene for anyone who's sensitive to gunfire. There's a scene walking through the trenches of World War One that the gunfire is very loud. There's a lot of dead soldiers around, but not as like monsters, just as decoration. Not that there's any like World War One veterans going to be coming through here, but I know someone who is sensitive to gunshots like that, and this is not something I would recommend for them to go through. So if that is something for you, it's something to be aware of that they don't necessarily say outside, and it kind of takes you by surprise because it's not something you get from the description of the haunt. So be advised. Origins, The Curse of Calico. This is one of the best mazes they have had done up to that point. This is several years old now, but this, like the Chilling Chambers, is a love letter to the history of Knott's Scary Farm. It is so the Green Witch, Sarah Marshall, and all these denizens that we see in the streets of Ghost Town, and these characters who have shown up in houses in that area year after year. This is exploring where they all came from. Let's take a look inside.
I curse this miserable town into eternal damnation. Your precious Calico shall decay and lie in ruin as a desolate ghost town.
So this is if you know kind of the story of Scary Farm and the history of Knott's and everything, you'll pick up on a lot of cool little things with this. One of the monsters is the Catawampus, which is like just it was a stump. It was a roadside attraction thing that Walter Knott actually just put together. And there's a little sign that says Catawampus, species extinct. And it's one of those things that's like kind of almost kitschy. And at the time, it really was a genuine roadside attraction, like a lot of the things that he collected to keep people busy while they're waiting for the chicken dinner restaurant. And that's how this park grew up around the restaurant. But now seeing the Catawampus like as a full-size character and everything, and he's on the hero art, like there are so many nice little nods to the history of Knott's, and this was several years ago, so this wasn't even the 50th anniversary one. It's just out of a love of the haunt and keeping the mythology going. And in addition to that, it's just a cool old westerny themed haunt with a witch and, you know, classic Halloween stuff. So it's a great haunt, whether you know the history or not. It's still just one of the more enjoyable haunts out there. And again, production values through the roof. Very cool sets. There's a flying rig at the end. Just really well done. I have nothing but great things to say about this one. Room 13, this one's back in the Goring 20s area. This one was new, I believe, last year. It's based around a drink that makes people lose their inhibitions and they start, you know, eating people and cannibalizing everyone inside this hotel. Let's take a look. So it's 1920s themed, you know, all Art Deco and everything. And you're kind of walking through a speakeasy and it's in a hotel and some cool visuals. I think this was the weakest one that debuted last year, but that's not to say it's bad. It's just by comparison to the others. It was the weakest one. And it's all centered around the Devil's Elixir. So this spills over into the Scare Zone that we'll talk about in a minute. And having like the green glowing bottle is kind of cool and iconic, but it's not one of my favorite mazes just because there are so many other places to spend your time that this one falls a little flat. There's a couple of cool visuals, but nothing that I was really blown away by. So anyway, it's still worth seeing, and especially if you have Fright Lane or something you can get through fast, it's definitely worth going on. Cinema Slasher is the next one. That was another one that was new last year. This one is in an old theater, and the premise is you walk through the screen and encounter these classic slasher movie scenarios with this one killer who stalks you through each of the rooms. Let's take a look.
Go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Enjoy the movie. To get ourselves a treat.
This one's cool. I think, you know, it debuted last year. It's better than Room 13. it's their killer that they have is just such a cool mask, and it's becoming now iconic as we're doing year after year, where you can see him in places I didn't necessarily recognize last year because I've been looking for it now. But going through like the Friday the 13th kind of thing, Killing in the Woods, and these classic cinema slasher movie things, like it's the perfect name for it. It's just cool and immersive to be in each of these different types of worlds that they've built that we're familiar with, but they're kind of giving their own spin to it with the one killer that's running all the way through. And then also at the end, the monster who's been controlling this the whole time, who's like made of film reels and film, and he is the projector. That's a really cool monster, and I just love the design of it. And this year, I feel like they moved the lights a little bit because I could actually see it a little clearer this year, which was great. It's just such a cool monster. So I highly recommend this one, especially if you're familiar with slasher films, if you're a horror movie fan. This is going to hit you where you live. It's very nostalgic. Mesmer, Sideshow of the Mind. This one is kind of circusy themed, and it's back near Accelerator, and it's where the evil clown scare zone is and all that, the carnival scare zone. It's, I think, one of the less scary houses, but visually striking. Let's take a look.
Do you want to be my friend? Please help me! I don't want to be.
To me, this is more a sideshow. It's a lot of really cool optical illusions and visual gags and set pieces and everything. It's not quite as scary. I don't think it's necessarily about the monsters in the way you're going through Origins and, like, you know, you want to see that catawampus jump out or the witch. And in Widows, it's all these people who are becoming spiders. This one, I think, is less about the characters. It's more about the cool set pieces and the visual illusions and the way things are done. That's the real draw of this house. And that's, you know, so by comparison, it's one of my least favorite houses of the night. At any other park, it would still be impressive, but just by comparison to everything that's here, it's I think less scary and less of a haunt, and it's more of a sideshow with cool illusions and stuff. Also, it took the place of one of my favorite mazes they've ever done that was called Shadowlands. This is from several years ago, but when Shadowlands went away and this came in, it was like, oh man, we lost that for this. Like, so I've always kind of just carried a chip on my shoulder for that. I gotta say, if lines are long, I don't know that this one is necessarily worth going through, but if it's short, if it's under like 20 minutes, absolutely go through and take a look, because the design and the gags that they use in there for these optical illusions are really cool. And then finally, our last maze is the Chilling Chambers. This one was new last year for the 50th anniversary. They've made a few changes this year. Let's take a look. So last year, this is a love letter to the haunt, not just to Knott's, but specifically to the haunt. It was a remake or a spiritual successor to the 10 Chilling Chambers, which came out in the 70s. And it was just 10 different rooms. They were a spook house. They were kind of loosely tied together. Now they've given it a through line, and they've populated it with all of these old masks and props and set pieces from previous haunts that we all remember as longtime fans who have been to this year after year. And it was all tied together with a new character. Their first real icon, other than the Green Witch, is the Keeper. And at the haunt event, or the announcement event last year, he came out. He was at Midsummer Scream greeting people. He was on a lot of the merchandise last year. He's supposed to be the head of this house. And even when I went to the Nightmares Revealed event back in August, which I'll link the show up here, and also I got to do a lights on walkthrough of this house. And going through, you see the Keeper. He appears here and there, and
You stumbled into the Chilling Chambers. Watch your back. You never know when minions from scary farms past to be lurking inside. Good riddance and bad night.
guides people through, and he's like, he's always saying hiya fringies, and like very cool. He's modeled after Sinister Seymour, and it was a nice character to go through the event and kind of detail some of the different rooms and give little snippets of what each of the houses were. It's not that he was like leading you, but it was just nice to have like a mascot almost. And this year they've removed him, and there's just a Knott symbol, the K, that's in different, fire or smoke or whatever it is. They've completely removed him, and they changed. They don't use his narration anymore. He's just not part of the house. And I noticed when I did the lights on walkthrough over the summer, they've changed the 50th logo to just the K, which is totally fine, because now it's not the 50th season. It's not an anniversary thing. It's just celebrating haunts of the past. So they've made it a little more timeless, and that's fine. But I don't feel like the Keeper was something that was necessarily tied to the 50th, and I think he could have just been part of the house for as long as they're going to keep it. So it's still the same thing, and they added a couple in the end room. They have these tombstones of all the houses that have come and gone and how long they were there. So they added a couple from last year that were there, and last year was their farewell year. Dark Entities and the Depths. They've added tombstones for those. That's a fine update. Changing the 50th anniversary logo to the Not Scary Farm, that's a fine update. I really kind of would have liked to have kept the Keeper. It's a nitpicking note. The house is still awesome, and if this is your first time through, you're going to enjoy it anyway. But having seen it last year with the Keeper, I just liked it that much more with him involved. So if you want to see the lights on walkthrough of this, and it has the Keeper's narration and where he would show up, check out my channel, and you can see him before they took him out. So that's all the mazes. Let's run down the scare zones again. I'm not going to get too deep into the scare zones, but let's take a look at a few of them. So back near Mesmer, they have Carnival, which is evil clowns. This has been here forever, and everybody does an evil clown carnival section because it's easy. But these characters are the best in the business. You can walk with them for 2 minutes and be constantly entertained, if not scared. They'll get you on the first one, but they're just entertaining. They're good at improv. They're good at, they've been given lines to interact with guests and stuff. Like, it's a fun time, and they know what to do, and they can sustain that kind of long form interaction if they want to, or they can just honk a horn and run away. And that goes for all the characters here, but especially the scare zones. These are the best scare zones anywhere at any haunt, because the characters are the best of. And there are people who have been doing this for decades. This is their thing. They just come back and be a character year after year because you develop those skills, and then they use them every year, and they just get better. So the scare zones here are awesome. Another one is Forsaken Lake. It's under Silver Bullet. It's cool. The costume designs are really fun for some of those characters. Goring 20s over by room 13, back near Berry Tales. Again, that glowing green bottle, you can kind of see it from afar, and the makeup is really cool for these folks. The Gauntlet is kind of like a D&D themed in Camp Snoopy. It's I had some really good interactions with them this year, and I'll get to why in a moment. And then Ghost Town Streets. That's the one that's been around forever, and it's the best scare zone. They have just pumped these streets full of fog, and that's where I think that's where the best characters are out of any haunt anywhere in the world, more than any of the houses. If you are the top of the top, if you are the best scarers in the industry, you're in the Ghost Town Streets. They know how to get you, whether you're a scaredy cat or used to haunts like me. They know how to use the fog and the layout of the land to give you good scares, to give cool pictures and videos for all of us who are in the park with cameras. This is the best scare zone, like bar none, no qualifiers. This is the best scare zone anywhere that you will see. And if you go in, and you can actually dine at the Ghost Town Grill, I think, and it's in the Ghost Town Street scare zone. You sit out on the patio and you can just watch, or just post up on a bench and you can watch. You could sit there for an hour, and I've done that in years past. Just sit there for an hour and watch everybody go. It's a great time, and this is like that feeling you want to have at a haunt of like excited and scared and fun and playful. That's the feeling you're going to get in the Ghost Town Streets. You get it in a lot of the scare zones, but like mostly Ghost Town Streets. It's just iconic. So I can't say enough good things about it. It's never ever let me down. This is the best scare zone. So in addition to the mazes and the scare zones, there's also the Yours Cruelly Elvira experience. I didn't get to go into this tonight or at the event because Cassandra Peterson was actually there. So they were charging for autographs and stuff. She's only going to be there on 3 nights. One was opening night, and then there's 2 dates in October right here where she's going to be there signing autographs, meeting fans, having a nice interaction. Tickets, I believe, are $80 for a signature, and you have to bring something from the haunt. It's no outside stuff to be signed. But I saw a lot of people were there meeting her, very excited to see it. On all of the other nights in the Walter Knott Theater, they're doing a retrospective of all the years and years of shows that she's done there. And I didn't get to go in and see it on that night, but hopefully I get to go back and return on another night when it's a little more open. But I did get to look through some of the merchandise, and it looks really cool. In addition to that, there's also 2 Halloween attraction overlays. There's the Timber Mountain Log Ride has become the Timber Mountain Log Ride Halloween Hootenanny. And this is with Crazy Kirk and the Hillbillies, who are a resident band here at Knott's now, and they do the soundtrack for it. And it's just spooky Halloween themed log ride. It's a lot of fun, but I don't necessarily, especially with as cold as it was last night, I didn't want to get wet. So, you know, it's fun if you get to it early, I think. I, early in the night, went on Ghost Rider, and that was the ride that I wanted to do. The coaster didn't like me, but I enjoyed it. So it was nice, and at sunset you get the views over the park as the haunt is coming to life. So the rides are really cool. The other ride that I want to mention is the Calico Candy Mine Company. So this is their classic Calico Mine ride that's been there forever. And at Halloween, it has the Halloween overlay is that they are mining candy. So when you go for Spooky Farm during the day with your kids, it's you go through and you see them mining the candy out. There's these giant pumpkins and everything. And then when you get up to the cave, where usually during the regular show it's like they play organs and the music swells. It's like a classic illuminated cave. At Halloween they have little projections, and there's a fairy, and it's very cute and sweet and fun for kids. And then at night it's the same thing, but in that room it's the fairy turns evil and becomes a witch and starts yelling at you that you'll be trapped in this mine for all eternity. I didn't know that it was different, so I had gone on it during the day with my son, and I was like, this is fun and cute, and then it got really demonic. So it's a nice little throwaway, but like if you've been there all day and you turn it into a nighttime ticket or something, it's nice to see it switch over. So they do have those that are exclusive to Scary Farm in the way that they're being done. Getting into the shows, I didn't have time to see a lot of the shows, but I did want to make time for the hanging because it's back. Last year it was uncanceled, and this year is the Errors Tour. I saw the whole show. I did post that. It's available on my channel. That's the only thing I'm going to post in full, just because it's, you know, like you can come and see these houses next year and stuff, but this show is a one-time only thing this year. You're just going to get it once. It's worth a watch. I don't think this is one of their strongest years. It felt a little, you know, it's an irreverent show. It's funny. It makes fun of pop culture throughout the year. And usually in years past, they would be a little more offensive and go a little bit further. And then they were canceled for being on PC. And then now they were brought back last year and it was a big thing. But it seems almost like they're pulling their punches again. Like they're not really going for stuff. They're kind of lampooning the theme park industry. I took my wife with me. A lot of this stuff, she doesn't know the ins and outs of like why they're making fun of Inside the Magic, which is completely deserved. Why they're, you know, goofing on Mr. Six from Six Flags, because Cedar Fair and Six Flags have now merged, and so Knott's is part of the same company as Six Flags Magic Mountain. Stuff like that where you need to kind of be up on the news, not like hyper intense. Like it's a big story. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about it. But there are so many little things, and like even references to Murphy the Dragon down the street at Disneyland, who's the Maleficent dragon, was called Murphy by cast members. And like those people in the theme park space know that, and it's funny, and there's a lot of little gags for that, but it's not something I think that's widely known. So they're only really lampooning the theme park industry anymore. And then the rest of it was just like Deadpool and Wolverine came out and kind of recreated Act 2 of Deadpool and Wolverine with those same characters. They're not making fun of pop culture as much anymore. They're just kind of turning it into a theme park show. So if you're a big theme park person, I mean, obviously you're sitting here watching a video about Knott's Scary Farm right now. So I imagine you're probably a theme park person. So you will very likely enjoy this show. But some of the normies that you bring with you to the haunt who are just there for a good time may not get a lot of the jokes and may not be as enthused as it would have been in years past. So it's worth watching if you're someone like me, but it's not one of their strongest years. So, you know, if you do skip it, you can see it on my YouTube channel or any other of the hundreds of YouTube channels out there that I'm sure have posted it last night. It's out there to be seen. So, meh. I guess that's my final thought is meh on that show. The other thing I want to cover is the lantern. So last year, they debuted this lantern. And this is the ghost lantern. The conductor was out and being all creepy with it. And you walk through the maze. It's got a little sensor here. And it will trigger effects around the park and in the mazes and stuff, and it will glow and change colors. Now, I got this for last year. I walked through the entire event, and it didn't do anything. Like, I think it turned blue one time, maybe, but it didn't really do anything, and I kind of felt it was a waste. It's a cool little souvenir, but I kind of felt like it was a waste as a technology inside the park. But then this year, they said they're debuting a new lantern. So of course I had to get a new lantern, and at $40 each, you know, it's not about the $40, but it's like, stop nickel and diming me. I want to have a fully contained event. But I bought the lantern, the new one for this year, because they said, okay, our tech is new. It's got new modes. It's got the first one has just a button to like turn it on and cycle through. The second one actually has a switch where it can change to a game mode. So when it's on the radio one, it glows yellow, and that's how it is in the haunts. It glows yellow. It's got the Widow's spider on it for this year. And then in the park and in the mazes, it triggers events and it reacts to things throughout the mazes and stuff. So this one I did see several times. It changed colors in Forsaken Lake and stuff, and it triggered events in the park with spiders and at the front entryway. There's a map that when you scan the QR code on the bottom, there's a map of where the park interactive features are, and it says it's within every maze. I walked with this through all the mazes and didn't get any reactions to it whatsoever, either in the lantern or within the maze. But it's hard to tell if, like if it makes the thunder go off or a light come on. How do I know that's not just a triggered effect? It's hard to tell. But I didn't register anything where I was like, oh, this is what it's for. But I did see it throughout the park, and I looked at a couple of them on the map, but I was intentionally not looking for, not hunting down the map. One, because I didn't have time. There's a lot to see and do at the event. But also, the first way we discovered it was we stopped to take a picture, and it went off. And it was like, oh, that's a nice little thing. And it made this display come to life. And then same with the spiders. You're just stopping to look at it for a moment, and the spiders come to life. The one at the front of the park, that's where we had stopped to take our picture, and it started going off, and you get a special little narration and stuff. It's nice to carry with you and have these extra little surprises of like, oh, that's fun. But I don't know that it's like revolutionary or that it's necessarily worth it to have it because you need to have it for the event. Like, it's a nice little, oh, fun, but it's not, the end all be all. If you skip it, it's not really going to change a lot of your experience. However, taking this through the mazes, even though it didn't have any reactions in the mazes, all of the characters interacted with this. And in the scare zones, too. We were walking through the gauntlet, and I was just mentioning offhand to my wife, it feels like there aren't a lot of characters here. And out of nowhere, I got swarmed by 4 guys who got way up close with it. Of course, I was filming because I was there on media night, but they just swarmed all around it. They were interacting with it. They were saying it should have turned blue and everything. I guess it should have turned blue in that area, and it didn't, but still, it was yellow, and they were interacting with it. And as you go through the mazes, there are so many places where it's so dark, and, that's what the haunt designers want, and this is almost like breaking that aspect of what they wanted. But to walk through the mazes like this, and it's a soft glow, but it's enough in a dark room where you can illuminate some of the characters, some of the set pieces, all of that. You feel almost like you're exploring that creepy old nursing home by yourself with just a lantern. And for myself, my eyes don't work as well in the dark, especially when there's like one light and it just kind of throws everything off. So having an extra light source, I can get up close to things and illuminate them and really see it. And that works especially well for the character masks, because you hold it up to them and a lot of them will interact and play with it and marvel, but it gives you that moment to really see the artistry of the mask they're wearing, of the prosthetics, whatever it is, of the makeup that they have, and then being able to illuminate the sets and everything with it. That to me is the benefit, because any other house you walk through, if you're carrying a glowing thing, they're going to tell you have to turn it off because it's going to ruin the experience for the other guests. But because this is from Knott's and they want you to buy it and they want you to use it, you can carry this through every maze and have an extra little light source. And like on a Scooby-Doo level of like in these dark rooms I'm exploring with my lantern is great, but then also just for the visibility. I want to go in to appreciate the artistry of the haunt, and this helps me do that. And then of course, if you're doing photography, videography, any of that kind of stuff in the mazes, having an extra light source that you're allowed to use, because like I can't carry this through the maze. They'll ask me to turn it off because it's way too bright and too much. So having this extra little light is like, it made my videos and my photos just pop that much more. So I wouldn't recommend getting this because you need it for the haunt experience or whatever, or the triggered effects even. Like, it's cool, but I could live without it. But having an extra light source in the mazes to be able to really take a moment and appreciate the artistry, and I think that's why most of these mazes moved so slowly, is because people are just soaking it in. Seeing it, being able to see it a little more clearly, that is worth $40 to me. I should have brought my lantern from last year, because the lantern last year did the exact same thing. but like having a lantern or borrow your friends or whatever it is, get a lantern and take it with you, because I really do think it improves the experience that you can see a little bit more. Oh, and I started to mention it's got the yellow mode for being in the mazes, and then you flip the switch to the other way, it goes green, and you'll see people throughout the haunt, especially in the scare zones and stuff, with green or red lanterns. If you walk up to them and if you're the same color or a different color, you walk up and you press the button, it will switch your lantern colors, and so you can play tag. So it registers all the people in one zone. It'll speak from one lantern to the next and register, all right, we've got these 5 in this vicinity as far as the RFID can go. One of them is going to be red, so you can actually run around and tag each other to turn it from green to red and play tag with the other guests in the park, which was kind of fun. I ran up behind someone and clicked it. I didn't know you have to click it, but like I ran up behind and was trying to tag and everything. So you get to play with the other guests in the park, and that's a fun element, especially if you're going time and time again. To have that repeatability of a little game is kind of cool. I am interested to see. I'm going to take this one with me this year, because there's a similar technology they use in the bubble wands for Merry Farm and for the Boysenberry Festival. It makes like bubble machines happen. And years ago, they did an interactive lantern like this that would glow along with the show during Christmas time. They had a Merry Farm lantern that they haven't sold in a while. But I'm thinking if I take this with me to Merry Farm, maybe that'll still go, because like Disney is still running their glow with the show from those like glow with the show ears that they had in like 2010 or something. That technology is still there, and I took my ears maybe a year ago and it was still working. So I'm hoping that Knott's did the same, where they just didn't turn off that functionality, and I can take my lantern and glow with the show at Christmas time, even though it has a giant spider on it. That's everything from here at Knott's. If you've jumped down to this time code, welcome back. We're going to do a no spoilers recap of everything at Knott's Scary Farm. This is a really fun event. It's the granddaddy of all the haunts. The artistry of these haunts can't be understated. A lot of people are walking through slow because you're just soaking it in. The sets, the costumes, the facial prosthetics and masks, the makeup, so many things are so well done here. And even though out of the 10 mazes, 8 of them are returning, and there's only 2 new ones, they're returning because they're really good. And you don't have a dud among them. Some of them, by comparison, are less than the others. Mesmer is probably one of the lower on the list for me. Bloodline 1842, again, lower on the list. Whereas 8 Fingers 9, the Boogeyman, the brand new one this year, is top tier. Origins Curse of Calico, the Chilling Chambers, all of those are top tier, can't miss them. And so by comparison to the other ones that are so good, there are some that feel less than. But if you just, out of nowhere go through Mesmer or 1842, you're still going to be impressed by everything they've done. It's still a good time. So it's definitely worth seeing. This year has been really good at here in Universal for haunt, so it's hard to say, and I'm going to do a video on which one you should pick, and we'll do compare and contrast. But this is definitely a year to come and see the haunt. It's a lot of fun. Get yourself a lantern, a glow with the show, glowy lantern thing, because it helps to illuminate some of the darker spots in the maze, and it interacts with aspects throughout the park and supposedly in the mazes, but the characters love interacting with this. I think it enhances your event just to have that something to focus on for the characters to come up and really get you. On the other end of things, there's also a No Boo necklace, which is a little glowy cat necklace you can wear if you don't want to be scared. But like if you don't want to be scared, I don't know why you're coming to a haunt event. That also doesn't work in the scare zones. So as you're walking through the fog, they're still going to hit you. It just works within the mazes. But if it's something you're interested in, it is available. Overall, I think this has been a great year. It's a really great event year after year. And this one, the 2 new mazes that they've brought have knocked it out of the park. The hanging, not quite so much. That one, I think, unless you're a really big theme park fan, it's skippable. Or you can watch it on my YouTube channel. But overall, the 8 Fingers 9, the Boogeyman, Widows is really good, and all of the returning mazes are great. So this is definitely a year that's worth going to. Thank you guys so much for staying on with me. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you're interested in seeing my reviews of Six Flags Fright Fest Extreme at Magic Mountain or Halloween Horror Nights are up there, and again, all those other, you know, behind the scenes clips and all of that. I also have a food review for Knott's Scary Farm food. So check out the channel. We've got a lot. We've got more coming at you as we get further into the Halloween season, because here we are, it's only mid-September. So we've got a ways to go. So subscribe to the channel, and I've got a lot more coming your way. Thanks so much for stopping by.